We normally talk about gold, and I'm going to talk about it today, but today I'm going to talk about a little something else. Talk about paper. Of course, we look at the gold while we're doing it. That's better. But it's here. You probably seen paper like that. And I ain't going to open it up. There's personal stuff there, so we keep it personal. But that's some receipts. And I know some folk, they don't care for a receipt. You know, they want a cash transaction. They don't want no paper involved except for the paper they hand the feller when he gives them the metal. So you might wonder why I got a stack of paper there. Well, there's a few reasons why. We'll get into them if I can get into this coin capsule. Anyway, by the way, you ain't seen that video Stormy did about fingernails and such. Y'all know sometimes my fingernails ain't so nice. Wife clipped them up like that. I did a little reaction video here, just kind of a fun little video, more or less just kidding. But seriously about it, sometimes it's hard to get these fellers open with your fingernails short. I said I need to get me a knife, but I'm used to having the claw. I break out the claw on it. Yep, might just have to give up on this and get me a knife or grow my fingernail back out. Anyway, that's that. We'll try another. And so, why I got papers? Well, there's a few reasons, like I said. I'm sure some of y'all familiar with what they call it, illegal search and seizure, what I called it, but they got another term for it. Oh, that's what it is. They called it asset forfeiture, something like that. Big fancy word by lawyers. In other words, mean they can, what they said, oh, they gonna arrest your gold. And they might let you go, but they gonna arrest your gold, arrest your cash. Basically, you carrying around a lot of cash or a lot of gold or something. And they said, I don't think that's yours. I think you're illegal. I think you're doing something wrong. I think you're probably a criminal. That ain't your money. And then you got to prove it, right? They said, I guess that's that guilty until proven innocent. That's where we getting to now. And they said, well, you're not guilty. That's dirty money or something. That's money laundering. You know, everybody carry around, boy, why you be carrying around all that gold? They see a feller like me or you, and they said, well, you just a regular feller. How'd you get that gold? That's what they said. Mustard, how'd you get that gold? That's what one feller said. He said, sound like you ain't got but 2 teeth. You ought to use some of the gold put in your mouth. That's probably what them road pirates would be saying. Why'd you get that gold, Mustard? So, you're gonna have to prove it's yours. So that's number one reason. Might need to prove you bought it. So that comes into play. You have your papers. You know, when they roll up on you, they want to see your papers. That's kind of how that works. They like to see your papers. Here pretty soon they'll probably put your little patch on your arm if you ain't careful. And want to see who you are and what you're doing, where you're going, who you associate with. So you got to have your papers handy all the time nowadays. And if you go to sell that gold here, you know, a lot of people think, well, why, if I'm going to sell it, I'm gonna get cash, and that's between me and the feller who bought it. Well, according to them, they said if you gain something, they gonna call it capital gains, 'cause this here, we called it money. Savings, even, and get one of them. Let me see if we find her, right? That there Lady Liberty. And what did it say? $20. That's a $20 gold piece from 1927. So, kind of funny, you have to spend nearly $3,000 to get $20 from 1927. But if you sold that coin there, that $20 piece, and let's just say you bought it at 25 and you sold it at 3,000, they said, well, we want our cut now. You gain $500. What I want to know about that is, who's paying me my loss on my cash that I had, that I lost $500, $1,000, with it sitting there depreciating, because inflation done ate it up. I ought to be able to claim every year a little depreciation on it, a little bit of capital loss, right? If I sit on cash. And so that's why I ain't trying to sit on too much cash. So anyway, so there you go. You gotta show your papers to the man. He wants to see your papers, see how much you bought it for, how much you sold it for. So that's another reason you gotta keep these papers handy nearby. Man wants to see how much gold you sold and what you bought it at and what you sold it at. Now, if you bought this here coin, let's say you bought something like that, real pretty, like maybe it's real special, and you paid a high premium. Let's say you bought one of them fancy something Perth Mint, and let's say you overpaid or whatever. Maybe you didn't, maybe you did. You paid a hefty premium. Then let's say gold market went down maybe, and you had to sell that feller. You had to sell that feller at a loss. Now, in that case, you'd want to have them papers there. You could claim a loss. So I reckon that'd be one case it worked in your favor, right? So maybe you want to keep that in mind. And I hear you can like carry that loss forward or something, but I ain't no expert. You probably ought to talk to your tax man. Good thing I ain't sold any, so I ain't got to worry about that. I ain't planning to sell it. But if I did, I'd have to have my papers about it. Prove my cost basis, as I said. I reckon if I sell anything, it's going to be something I just bought, first in, first out, or last in, first out. The last to be first and the first to be last. Because I'd sure hate, let's just say you're buying buffaloes. And you buy a bunch of buffaloes. Maybe you bought one 10 years ago. I don't know what spot was 10 years ago. And you bought one. Well, we got a few here. That's just hypothetical. Let's say you bought one back in gold, $1,000. Then you kept buying. You bought one at gold is $1,400. Call that $1,400. Bought this here pretty one more recently. Maybe gold is around $25. Let's just say. Then you bought this in just real recent. Gold went up to $3,000. You paid a little over $3,000 for that in there. let's just say tomorrow gold goes down back to 28. Well, which one of these you gonna sell out of all them? You ought not sell that one. I reckon you'd sell that one right there. That one that you bought at a little over 3,000, right? So that'd be my advice, and sell that newer one. Of course, them two look mighty similar, and ain't no serial number, so I reckon it don't really matter which one you sold, because no matter which one of them you sold a buffalo. And I figure if it's me, I'd want to sell that one I paid the most for. So anyway, keep that in mind. Just maybe if you want to sell one, you ought to sell one maybe you paid a little bit more for. Maybe you overpaid for. It is just an ounce of gold, right? So another reason to keep your papers. And I'm sure there's a few other reasons. Like I said, if someone suspect that you stole that gold, or I don't know, whatever reason, it'd be nice to have it. I'll be honest, I ain't got one on every one. I try to keep track though of my costs. I made myself a little receipt a few times. It ain't official, but just to keep track of what I spent. Helped me too. And I think that what you call record keeping, I ain't the best at it. Some people do a big Excel spreadsheet, and that's nice, but me, I'm kind of old school, so I like papers. So I keep them papers. Of course, I got them in a few different ways, a few different forms. So anyway, what y'all think? You like to have a receipt? I really do. I don't much care when they put all that too much information on it. I like to keep it good but simple. 1 ounce of gold buffalo. Or maybe just 1 ounce of gold. Be fine with me. Just call it 1 ounce of gold. Call it, I don't know, 10th ounce of gold. Call it I don't know what you'd call that. Maybe you'd have to call that a $10 gold piece, or $5 gold piece, $20 gold piece. And I reckon keep it simple, because I'm a simple man. I got simple taste, and it's simple reporting that way, right? Anyway, so that's why I'm stacking paper along with my gold. Kind of ashamed to have to do it, but that's the way you got to play the game. Anyway, that's a little video for today. All right then, bye-bye.